So yeah, I don't like The Last Guest, so I want to elaborate on what I mean by that for a second. So, as you guys know, I run a Last Guest channel. Well, it was, but I changed my name to Jefferson's Headshot because I'm a Sonic fan. But my entire channel is Last Guest related. I'm a Last Guest gotcha tuber, and it's very interesting that I hate The Last Guest. I'm going to explain my reasons why and tell you all it is not exactly the case. I don't hate The Last Guest character per se, but I used to. In fact, I used to hate the entire Last Guest franchise, which is ironic to where everything eventually ended up. My entire life is now a Last Guest gotcha tuber. Now I love this franchise, but there used to be like that. I was the biggest, and I mean the biggest Last Guest hater behind the scenes. I hate this franchise, I hate this movie, hate everything, hate all the characters and everything. And I want to explain what changed, what made me go from just a typical soy boy, regular Roblox gamer into somebody who loves the Last Guest franchise and cannot wait for anything new that comes out of it. So it all goes back to when I was a young child back in 2016 when I played on my mom's phone before I had my own phone and everything. I was a Guest 666 fan. I was a huge hacker fanboy. I love especially Guest 666. I used to watch like hackers, Guest 666 videos, like clickbait videos on my mom's phone. I used to watch all of it non-stop. And when I used to watch more Guest 666 clickbait videos, I found a video on YouTube called The Sad Story of Guest 666, or The Story of Guest 666, whatever it was, by a YouTuber named The Healthy Cow. And when I saw it and watched the full video, I used to like it. And that's why that made me go from like a huge Guest 666 fan before everything changes. Now, when I first saw it, it's like, oh, this was the best video of all. I used to be a Guest 66 fan until when I saw a YouTuber named Oblivious HD made a video on Guest 666 itself, and it's like, oh, I'll try to watch that too. And when I saw it, I figured, oh, of a character named Emily, and I realized the voice actor is the same person who made the Guest 666 last sad story. And it's like, oh, I was like really shocked, like, dude, it's the same voice actor. And it was like mind blown, like it literally activated my neurons in my brain, and it's like, oh, and I feel like very interested with this channel. And so eventually, that's where I used to be a Guest 66 fan, until the next year when then Roblox announced that guests are being removed on Roblox, and it's like, oh, which is like, I was like very shocked and sad about it, because I used to play Roblox as a guest in a guest account before I made my own Roblox character, and all of it changed my life forever. But we'll get into that in a minute. When they announced on that guests were removed, Oblivious HD made a teaser of The Last Guest. Now, when I saw it, it's like, oh, this is probably an interesting movie for some reason. And I made like a huge fight. If Guest 666 defeats Last Guest in a fight, I would say Last Guest would be in a fight. Which is funny because Guest 666 would destroy Last Guest, but I was biased back then. I was a child. I didn't know I was biased, but it was all fun and games. And when the Last Guest movie came out, I saw the full movie, and let me tell you all, I did not like it. Now let me explain my reasons why. The reason why I do not like The Last Guest movie is because it's not because of the characters and the whole animation, all of that. It's because of the story. Now here's the thing why. One of the stories that I used to hate is the scenes. And the scenes that I hated is where Last Guest and Daisy get married and had a child. Now all of you saying, what does it have to do with it? Simple. If you guys like saw in what the inspiration is about the con, I'm pretty sure I'll pull up a screen right there. You see where a kid hands like a lollipop to this girl who will be her future wife. That is basically what inspired, and but the inspirational aside, one of the only image I thought for some reason is that I'm going to show you what the image is about. If you don't know what if you're an OG, if back then, when you might know that when Oblivious HD announced that, I'm pretty sure it was deleted or something. Oblivious HD announced like the artwork for the top 10 fan art contests, and whoever wins gets a lot of Robux. And one of the images that I thought is this one. Is the one where the Last Guest was holding Daisy in the park. Last Guest wearing his army while Daisy was wearing her normal Nikes. And then I thought that Last Guest was gonna be like this adopted father and adopts Daisy from like an adopted center because like the size, the height, like Last Guest is like taller than Daisy, and I literally thought that it was gonna be like where Last Guest being this adopted like father figure to Daisy and all that. And for some reason that's the reason why I did not like The Last Guest. And after all that, when the movie was first one was done, they announced that there was going to be a sequel. And when I saw the first teaser, I thought, hey, it might be a little bit decent. Like when they announced about where Jez and Zara was literally sitting down on the tree, and where he's talking about how Jez talks about how he thought the guests were his enemy, and so I was like, oh, this might be like a new protagonist. And yeah, and after The Last Guest 2 came out, it's basically the same thing but with Jez's perspective. And I was like this close to like almost in shock when The Last Guest confirmed that he was alive and all that. And yeah, and so when Last Guest 2 I finished Last Guest 2, there was a game, an official game called Guest World, and it was only on its testing server. So I played it, and it was really good. I can interact with friends, people that I know, and roleplay as every single character. And not only that, some guest six characters are in this. It's like, oh, as a guest 666 fan myself, I am so glad that the guest 6 characters are in this. Now, after all that, when the beta game came out, and yes, I was a beta tester on Guest World, so I just want to say that I was a beta tester back then. So when I was playing, when Guest World was out on beta, I was like, you know what? Maybe I was a little harsh on Last Guest. I want to give this game a try. So I played Guest World beta, and let me tell you, I loved this game. This was the first Last Guest game I've ever properly played that I genuinely love. I spent so much time playing the Guest 666 minigame. Never actually went to the other map, just playing the same minigame over and over. again, but I love it. I love every single bit of what I was experiencing. The characters, the maps, the non-copyright music, everything was so cool. Guess World was such a good game, and I love that game to death till this day. It's still one of my favorite Last Guess games of all time. So, because I lost my old account and got a new account, which is now, at the time I was able to play the full release of Guess World, and I did not like it. In fact, I really didn't like it. Now, let me explain my reasons why. The beta version of Guess World is a lot better in a multiple different ways. The graphics are better, the gameplay is better, there's not really much frame rate issues. You get a huge open world map. That was really cool. But the one thing that I always say that the beta version had over the final release of Guess World was that the Guess 66 statue minigame had the ability to have orbs in order to unlock it. You see, in Guess World you need 3 orbs, the blue one, the red one, and the green one, in order to unlock Guess 66. Now normally you might be asking, what's the issue with this? Well, when you play the beta version of Guess World, it's a lot easier to get Guess 66 on the statue shooting lasers at you. The minigame is a lot easier. Whereas the final version of Guess World, you take a lot of time waiting for the time to reach at 18 to summon Guess 66, and during the minigame, you die many times of making the same mistake over and over again. So it's either one of those. You wait for the time that reaches 18 and requires a lot of luck in order to get these orbs, in order to unlock Guess 66. And that was very disoriented and disappointing, especially to me as a 13 to 14-year-old kid. I couldn't understand it. What was I supposed to do? I didn't know these orbs existed. I was young. I didn't really know how to play games back then. But I didn't like the full release of Guess World, which is a huge shame because I love to see my friends play it. Then something else happened. When I was younger, after I didn't like The Last Guess 1 and 2, I still want to give The Last Guess movies another chance. So the first proper Last Guess movie that I ever loved was The Last Guess 3. And that was my first foray to ever watch a Roblox animation. Now let me backtrack for a little bit. I have modeled up the timeline for this event. So it's actually The Last Guess 3 I've watched, and that's the reason why I love The Last Guess, while The Last Guess 1 and 2 was the movies I didn't like. Before I played the full release of Guess World, before I met my online friends, the best Last Guess movie I've ever watched was The Last Guess 3. And I love that movie, so any foray I've got into the Last Guess franchise was just cursed for me. It was very cursed for me. But then 2 things happened that changed everything forever and made me love this franchise to death. When I got my own phone, a Samsung phone, and got my own phone, then The Last Guess 4 came out. And I loved it. I loved every single bit of it. Every time I took my Samsung phone out, I was watching The Last Guess 4. The fight against the army and the Bacon soldiers, including Last Guess and Jess fighting the Colonel, and Matt and Molly fighting the elite guards, were perfectly great in my mind, and I would play the fight scenes over and over again. And I love this scene. I've absolutely loved it. But it was only The Last Guess 3 and 4 movie that I liked. None of these 2 other movies really appealed to me. And then one character came along that changed everything. When I was watching the premiere of The Last Guess 4, and I saw The Last Guess plushie merch, and let me tell you, bro, as a kid, that plushie was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. The Last Guess plushie had cool details. How can that not be awesome? That activated all the neurons and I was fully it. I loved The Last Guess character was everything he had. My favorite color, blue. So the only Last Guess things I've gravitated towards in my youth was The Last Guess and the nostalgic Last Guess movies. And because of that, I've never really delved deep within the Last Guess franchise, but there wasn't a movie about him besides the first one. He was my favorite Last Guess character, which is the reason why I wanted to try and more of this franchise. But just wasn't enough much. And the style of the Last Guess movies that I liked was 3 and 4. So for years, I just didn't touch the franchise. But then Roleplay World came out. And that was an amazing experience. Oblivious HD, Forever HD, and everyone involved in that game did a terrific job with revitalizing all of the HD genre. And let me tell you, that opened the floodgates. Soon I was consuming everything Last Guess related. I got really deep into the story and rewatched all 4 movies. I even watched the full movie with new scenes on a full compilation movie. All the scenes melded together. I grew in love with everything this franchise represented in every single way. And I just love everything that this series has done it. It was because of my past experience that I didn't love the Last Guest franchise. Growing up, but as I was introduced to characters like the Last Guest himself, played the games right for me, soon I just grew in love with this franchise. I went from being a Last Guest hater to someone that adores this franchise. Loves all the characters. I love all the characters that are in this franchise. I like just so many things, and I never would have realized, especially when I was younger, how this one movie franchise was about to change my life forever. I owe so much to that blue-haired guest, all of his friends, all of his movies, all of the fan-made projects online. I own everything to this franchise from where I am today. It is genuinely amazing to me how much this franchise changed my life. And for that alone, I'll forever appreciate it. Roleplay World is what opened the floodgates. The Last Guest character is the one that got me into this franchise in the first place. Those were the reasons from what I went from being a Last Guest hater to being someone that loves the Last Guest franchise.